This year, 55 AD, marital disputes lead to a tribal revolt in Britannia. The last remaining biological son of Claudius is murdered, and Radamistus is ousted yet again from the Armenian throne. Welcome to the Early Histories, where we will highlight the major events that take place in the Common Era year by year. Last year, we saw Emperor Claudius dying and possibly being assassinated at a dinner party, Nero becoming the new emperor of Rome, and Radamistus once again seizing the Armenian throne. Starting off the year by catching up on the activities of the new Roman governor of Britannia, Aulus Didius Gallus. After the sudden death of Governor Publius Astorius Scapula in 52 AD, Gallus was tasked with confronting the persistent resistance of the Silures tribe in the western part of Britannia, who had humiliated the Romans with a string of recent defeats. Since that time, he has moved to consolidate the Roman position by constructing numerous forts in Roman-controlled territory. Notably this year, the fort of Tamium is built, which looks to be in a strategic position for further excursions across the front. Around the same time, conflict erupts across the northern frontier within the Brigantes tribe, longtime allies of Rome. They are currently ruled by Queen Cartimandua, who has been reigning for over 10 years at this point. The late rebel Briton king Caratacus attempted to seek refuge with her after being defeated by the Romans, but as a friend of Rome, she handed him over in chains. Since that time, Cartimandua's husband, Venutius, has taken command of the rebel resistance of Roman occupation. Cartimandua has apparently tired of him and decides to marry his armor-bearer Vellocatus, whom she elevates to the kingship in Venutius's place. Initially, Venutius seeks only to overthrow his ex-wife, only to later turn his attention to her imperial allies. In turn, the Romans come to the aid of their client queen, and Venutius's revolt rages on as the year ends. In Rome itself, Nero and his mother Agrippina are celebrating an early victory in his young reign. Before Nero's accession, Agrippina was worried that Claudius would move to replace Nero as his heir with his biological son, Britannicus. Fortunately for Nero and Agrippina, the emperor suspiciously passed away before he could make concrete steps. At 13 years of age, Britannicus still remains the greatest threat to Nero's right to rule. In the last year, the new emperor has constantly worked to undermine the public image of Britannicus. Those attempts were not met with much success, and he decides to resort to more fatal means. At a dinner party, attended by his sister Octavia, Agrippina, and several other notables, Nero plots to have Britannicus poisoned to death. Tacitus's account of the event is that Britannicus was given a hot drink, which was tested by a food taster, and when he asked for it to be cooled, the poison was added to it with the cold water. The substance was instantly effective, and he, quote, lost alike both voice and breath, unquote. The next day, the boy's body is buried secretly with no ceremony, and with the death of young Britannicus, Nero and Agrippina triumph yet again. In other matters, Nero begins to turn his attention to the arts. This year, quote, Nero imported the foremost lyre player in the empire to give him lessons, and commenced a rigorous regimen to develop his singing techniques as well, unquote. Suetonius notes, quote, ultimately, though his voice was feeble and husky, he was pleased enough with his progress to begin to nurse theatrical ambitions, unquote. Last year in Armenia, we saw the Iberian prince Radamistus taking back the throne from Tiridates, who was placed there by the Parthians. When Radamistus returned to Armenia, he immediately began to punish the locals who collaborated against him. In turn, an uprising against his rule breaks out this year, and he is ousted yet again. Tiridates, the brother of King Vologases of the Parthian Empire, takes advantage of the chaos and is now restored to the throne once again. Radamistus is able to escape along with his wife Zenobia, who is currently pregnant. But unable to continue the Great Escape, she asks her husband to end her life so she could not be captured. Putting his ruthless side on full display, Radamistus stabs her with a dagger and flings her body into the river Araxes. Surprisingly, Zenobia is not fatally injured and is recovered by shepherds who send her to Tiridates. With Tiridates back on top, he will have to keep a close eye on the hardened Roman general Corbulo, who was stationed in the eastern Roman provinces the prior year by Emperor Nero. For now at least, no orders to intervene have been given. Further south, the Parthian king Vologases ought to be pleased with events unfolding in Armenia, yet troubles at home soon distract him. A member of the Arsacid dynasty and his own son, Vardanes, rebels against his father from his base in Seleucia. He moves to Ecbatana, where he takes control and begins to mint coins of his own. The interfamilial rebellion continues as the year ends in Parthia. Moving to the Korean peninsula, where the kingdom of Goguryeo is hard at work developing their territory. The court of the young King Taizhou orders the construction of a fortress in the west along the border with the Han dynasty. The two states have fought fierce battles against one another over the years, and these fortifications look to protect Goguryeo against future incursions. We will leave this year, 55 AD, with the former husband of Queen Cartimandua leading a revolt against the Romans in Britannia, Nero having Britannicus killed, and Tiridates returning to the throne of Armenia, backed by the Parthians. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to be notified when the next iteration of the yearly histories will be released. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next year in 56 AD to continue the fascinating stories of the world of antiquity and cover its major events.